So this video is religious stroke political, and of course religion and politics have always been intertwined ever since the inception of both of them. Now, over the past, let's say 10 years in particular, the world started to look like a pretty horrifying place when we had this global encroachment of Islam and the suppression of anybody speaking their minds about that particular religion. And those of you that have been viewers of this channel for a long time, you will know that I have the freedom to say absolutely anything about Christianity, or about Buddhism, or about Sikhism, or about any of the other 4,000 religions. But if I was to speak in a way which could be considered hate speech in current times, then this channel will get a strike on the strength of that. And so, we're in difficult times, but it's getting better. Now, some of you will be aware, with all this business going on in what is called Palestine, which isn't in actual fact a place or in actual fact a people, it's just an idea. But lots of people have got different thoughts about that, and the leftists, uneducated people are out there in their hordes campaigning anti-Israel and pro-life and this, that and the other. But as usual, they don't know a single thing what they're speaking about, because they just don't do the homework and they haven't educated themselves. But that's the human being for you. Always jumping on the proverbial bandwagon at any given time. But the surge of this so-called anti-Islam, the Islamic phobia, and the constraints on our speech, and all of these immigrants coming in from Islamic countries and not integrating and are responsible for lots of things, and I don't need to go into that. But it looked like we was in pretty deep water. But now there's been a change in the surge of this energy, at least from the United States, with the advent of the inauguration of Donald Trump. Now, in Britain, we've got one of the worst prime ministers our country has ever known, and he'll be short-lived, he'll be long forgotten, and it'll all be over very, very soon. And then hopefully we'll have a decent politician in to take Britain forward. Now, the Trump administration is apparently trying to bring a law in which states that people cannot do what people can't do to the Muslims. So they're fighting back. They're saying anyone who is got a phobia towards the Jews and he's slandering them or hate speeching them, all this sort of thing, then they're going to suffer consequences. And people who are not citizens of America are going to be sent back to their countries, and they're going to be losing their privilege to go to the universities in the United States and all this sort of thing. Now, of course, this absolutely has to happen because there is a plan that the Trump administration and Netanyahu and lots of other people, big wigs around the world, have in mind. And that is the cleansing of Israel from that Hamas, which I don't need to go into the details about, but it's a fine thing for a country to eradicate terrorism, and if we could do that all over the world, then wouldn't it be a wonderful thing? But to get rid of the people who are perpetrators of that and believers in that religion and system, well, that's a good start. So that's what's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. And the third temple of Solomon is going to be built in place of the mosque on Temple Mount. So there's going to be a lot of trouble in the world in relation to the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims on the basis of that. Now, of course, all these things in relation to religion and politics entwined is very, very complex. And if we look at how this region was actually created, how Israel was created, it goes back a long, long time. It goes back 100 years, people. That's in the making as far as America and Britain and France is concerned, with the chopping up of that land and giving certain land to certain nations and this, that and the other, and promising land to certain nations and often promising land to various nations. So all this stuff's been going on. And it is a can of worms, but it absolutely cannot continue to go on like it has been going on for many, many years. And so, by the grace of the cosmos, then Trump looks like he's got the position to take things forward. So I'm going to play you a video here. For those of you that aren't familiar with Islam, what's going on, it's only a 3-minute video, and if any of you have any doubts, if I shouldn't think there's any liberalists on this channel, and probably not too many religious people, because I have a way of sending them on their way. Now, I send them on their way because this channel isn't about dogma, it isn't about beliefs, it's a philosophical, psychological, investigative channel, a spiritual investigative channel. It investigates, it doesn't have any beliefs, it doesn't have any dogmas. And so, I'm going to play you this because this guy here, he's very, very prominent at this moment in time, and he's been prominent for the past 15 years, but he's now getting a lot of air because things are coming to a head. So I want to play you this first, and then I'll speak about the rest, what I want to speak about.
What is your view on Islam?
As someone who grew up in a Muslim family, I was conditioned to be a Muslim. Later on, I went to a Sharia school. I studied Islam. I memorized huge portions of the Quran. I read the Quran on a regular basis. I studied classic Arabic to understand the language of the Quran. I spent most of my childhood and up to my mid-20s in that environment. Islam is not a religion of peace, bottom line.
So
And this is not according to one sect. This is according to the Quran itself. And all the Islamic sects, denominations, follow a major book, and that's Quran. And Quran in itself is not peaceful. The God of the Quran, Allah, is not peaceful. He's a very violent God. He's not tolerant. He hates the Jewish people. He hates the non-Muslims. And he gives the authority to the Muslims to punish the non-Muslims if they don't obey Allah, to function as the sword of Allah on earth. And this by itself is blasphemic, is wrong, is against the way of life, is against the way of evolution, it's against religion, it's against morality, it's against diversity. And those who claim that Islam is a religion of peace, they are liars. They are all paid actors. They are all compromised by the sheikh oil money. And they don't want to piss off Islamic political regimes and Islamic money and Muslim investors. And most importantly, they want to avoid the Muslim rage. So they just keep dragging humanity into the trap that Islam is a religion of peace, while it's not. So as someone who know the Quran very well, so the people cannot be mistaken, say, okay, this is your Islam, or this is your sect, or this is your denomination. I tell them, rest, take a seat, and listen. The Quran itself has a problem. Allah Himself has a problem. And if we want to deal with Islamic violence, then we need to deal with the root cause of this problem, and it resides in the Quran itself.
So, there we have someone who is more than qualified to speak about this issue, qualified in all the relevant regions, comes from that region and knows it very, very well. And so he's been out on the circuit speaking about this for many years. So I'm very surprised that the world has turned around, because it looked like the world was lost, because everybody seemed to be complicit in this liberalistic scourge of dementia which was coming over the world. It was getting beyond silly, with all the silly pronouns and 12-year-olds being able to make a decision to cut away and transform their genitalia and change sex. A 12-year-old, when in America, lots of states, you have to be even 18 before you can even have sex and drive and get married and things like that. And so what was going on was absolutely barbaric, and there's something very, very evil and sinister. So this pervasive thing that swept over the Western world in relation to the immigration, which we all know about, was another wave of evil. And in our country, we are dealing with something which is so deeply rooted, and many people are involved in it. Elon Musk is involved in it, the Tommy Robinson thing, Jordan Peterson's involved in it, and many others. And they are attempting to bring to task our Prime Minister, who knew about this situation for a very long time. And he was in a very, very powerful position prior to being Prime Minister, and he had the authority and jurisdiction to turn things around and to change things, but he never. He allowed thousands and thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, over about a 30-year period, of young teenage girls to be violated. And then the crimes were covered up. And so this now has to be addressed, and it is being addressed. To what extent, we don't know at this moment in time, but we'll find out. The situation in Palestine, Israel, Gaza, that after all these years is finally being addressed. And this thing is finally being addressed. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the world is gaining its senses once again. And when we look at the different sides, different attitudes, different positions, different parties, different ideologies. For instance, when we had the Biden administration in the US, well, what is cesspool? Every single policy just about that he brought into place was about destroying America. And so now we've got Trump, who is reversing all of that and has the greatest of intentions, along with all the rest of his entourage, to make America great again. Now, we need someone like that in Britain, and we need someone like that in France, we need someone like that in Germany, we need someone like that in every country all over the world. We have to start building up our nations and our sovereignty, instead of breaking them all down into a mediocre cesspool of nothingness. Where everybody is terrified to voice their own opinions. For goodness sakes, we've got opinions. Most people's opinions aren't valid, they aren't worth anything, but at least we have the right to opine them. And as soon as we lose that, then we lose a great deal. So I'm very, very happy the way things are going, because it looks like now there's light at the end of the tunnel. And all those things which are very, very wrong are being righted. And so I just felt that I needed to state my opinion on this. I don't often get too political, but because it's ideological, because it's psychological, because it's spiritual, and because it's religious also, then all those things are my bag. And so politics very often infiltrates all of those things sometime or other. And so, it's unavoidable to deal with politics from time to time. And so, I'll finish up this video there, and then I'll speak about something which is religion oriented, spirituality oriented, psychology oriented, and philosophical in the next video.